All right. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another video. So, in today's video, me and my dad, we will be discussing whether or not the One Ring from Lord of the Rings is a Horcrux. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So my dad here, my dad here, he kind of turned into a raven, hence his profile picture. So anyway, so Dad, you can go ahead and just kind of say hi and everything, and yeah.
Hello.
All right, awesome. So like I said, today's video we're just going to be discussing whether or not the One Ring is a Horcrux or not. So that'll be kind of a fun little discussion that we're doing. So anyway, so so I'm just going based off of my notes here that I have. But so I basically
So,
said,
so
oh, what did you say?
start, explain what a Horcrux is.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would be a good way to start.
So for those who don't know what a Horcrux is, but I'm pretty sure most people probably know what a Horcrux is, like if you're watching this channel and everything like that. But anyway, so for those who don't really know what a Horcrux is, a Horcrux it is essentially so it is essentially basically like a container that can basically kind of like host your host a piece of your soul, but of course that container in specific has been um, defiled by like dark magic, I guess. Or well, at least in in Harry Potter, that's kind of like what it's described as, a Horcrux. But of course, essentially, it's basically either either like a container or a vessel, like where you can keep bits bits of your soul. So yeah, so that's basically kind of what a Horcrux is at this point. So yeah, but anyway, so what were you saying?
Yeah, that's a good description of the in the Harry Potter universe. That's a Horcrux is in different genres or whatever magic genres, um, like a lot of board game genres, like D&D universe. It would be in other fantasy books or whatever. Um, the liches, a lich is becomes a lich by forcing their soul into a magic item through rituals or whatever of dark magic, and they become a lich by creating a reliquary, I guess, or whatever how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
And so that then is a magic item that they usually keep hidden or keep with them to protect it because it now contains their soul and prevents them from dying. That's how they extend their life. And they slowly turn into some form of a lich because their body slowly decays, but yet they're held into an undeath or an undead state because they now have their soul that's held alive through magic. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
um, the Horcrux is similar in that the person is held alive because their soul is magically encapsulated in this item that's been created, or
Yeah.
a piece of their soul.
Yeah.
So if one piece is alive, it's like the the theory that if one piece of your soul is alive, then it helps keep the rest of you alive.
Okay. Yeah. So while I was kind of researching this topic here, and everything, so as I was researching it, I kind of came across, like just kind of like what you just said about liches and like in the D&D universe and everything. But yeah, but anyway, so looking over my notes here, so I just kind of just said like that. So essentially, in sorry, so in Lord of the Rings, the rings were like were made for the people of Middle Earth, and and of course, so that way they can go ahead and just kind of govern themselves and everything. And yeah, but of course the rings, they do a lot more than just that. So, but of course the One Ring was made to kind of rule over all of the other rings in uh, Lord of the Rings, which was kind of just like, which, well, that's what Sauron kind of made that for, was like, was, I guess, that was what, like, that purpose. And well, because he forged it, he also put like part of his soul and like into that ring, which of course the ring then became a vessel, um like to kind of house part of his soul, which is just kind of interesting. And oh yeah, so that, like, and also like when you think about it, so when uh, Saruman, or sorry, Sauron got defeated, so he vanished, similar to how, like Lord Voldemort did, right? Right, but of course in Middle Earth, so he was like this, like, um so okay, well, so Voldemort, so when he tried to kill Harry and everything else like that, so like his curse rebounded himself, and of course with that, like, he kind of essentially became a soulless state, like similar to how Sauron did, like in a lot of ways. And I guess for years they were kind of just basically just lurking about and everything. And yeah, so
Okay, well, what is the difference between Voldemort and his Horcruxes and the One Ring?
well, well, so, well, well, let me go ahead and take a look at my notes here that I kind of written down a little bit. But so in the Harry Potter universe, okay, like in the Harry Potter universe, the so a Horcrux, um, well, so we don't really quite know, like, how the actual making of a Horcrux really is or anything else like that. But of course, it is a form of very dark magic, and of course, in order to create a Horcrux, you essentially have to like do something terrible that would damage your soul. Um, in this case, in the Harry Potter universe, it would kind of be, what is it, like, I guess murder. So basically, like, I guess, like if you kill somebody and everything, like, that would basically damage your soul. And then with that, then you can kind of take that damaged bit of soul and then split it, and then basically just creating a Horcrux that way. And there also must be like other things as well. Yes, like in the creation of Horcruxes, yeah, or well, yeah, but or though, like, with the One Ring, the One Ring was, I guess, forged in Mount Doom and everything. And oh well, or well, yeah, so well, that was kind of forged with like a certain purpose and intent of um well, I guess, ruling over Middle Earth and everything else like that, like within the, like, other things of Middle Earth, I guess. But yeah, or so that was just the One Ring's purpose, like, was to be forged to kind of rule over all of the other rings that were kind of, um, like
Yeah,
around
it
Middle
was,
Earth. Yeah.
and what happened with the One Ring in many ways was unintentional.
Yeah.
When Sauron forged it, he poured in his will to rule, to dominate, to subject, and he poured those things into the ring, not knowing that the ring itself became an entity. And when he was separated because he poured himself into the ring. When he was separated from the ring and became defeated, the ring itself became an entity.
Yeah.
And it was that's more than just a Horcrux
Yeah.
is just a reflection of the soul or the part of the soul of who has it. So I mean they're actually a reflection of the person. Let's look for let's contrast that with like Tom Riddle's diary,
Yeah.
for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So of course, with like with Tom Riddle, so with Tom Riddle's diary, so well, okay, so that obviously became a Horcrux and everything because there was a bit of soul that was in there. Yeah, or well, yeah, but or the like that one kind of worked a bit differently than all of his other Horcruxes and everything that Voldemort created. Well, yeah, because like within the diary, the diary was also used to open the Chamber of Secrets as well. Like, which is kind of interesting. Like, is because like I don't feel like any of the other ones, like any of the other Horcruxes, really had like a purpose than to basically like kind of keep Voldemort from dying, except for like the diary, like it also had that purpose of keeping Voldemort dying and everything like that, and kind of anchoring him to the world in a way. But of course, Tom Riddle's diary, it also had another purpose of well, like opening the Chamber of Secrets, so that way essentially he could kind of feed off of like or well, I guess so not necessarily Voldemort himself, but the version of Voldemort that was in the diary, Tom Riddle, so where he could basically kind of go um I guess kind of go and kind of like feed off of the person who was writing in the diary, um, like I guess like that student or I guess that person's life force, so that way he would be able to ultimately kind of become a bit stronger in a way.
So I mean if it were to come to full fruition, he would actually replicate and become another Voldemort.
Yeah, yeah, more or less. Yeah, I mean,
So that's different from all the other Horcruxes.
yeah, yeah,
So that's kind of a scary proposition there.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
the One Ring, um, does it have that capability?
So the One Ring, well, honestly, I would maybe say like it like I mean it kind of does well I mean okay, if you compare like the One Ring to Tom Riddle's diary, they are basically similar, like in a sense, as like they're basically trying to become their own like entity. Oops, I blurred that. But yeah, so or well yeah, so like with that, like they basically kind of become their own entity, and like in a way. So
Yeah, the One Ring actually is its own entity, and toward the end, I mean, it actually begins to take control of Sauron himself.
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, he wants the ring, but the ring also wants to come back to him because he's the most powerful thing on Middle Earth.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that makes
the
sense.
the One Ring seeks out power.
Mm-hmm.
It wants power. It wants it wants to rule, and it realizes that its former master is the only way it's going to be able to rule all of Middle Earth. But and it's scary because it knows that someone like um, any one of the elven rulers, if they were to pick up the One Ring, they know they dare not touch it
Yeah,
because through them, just like Gandalf says early on, through him he would try to use it to do good, but through him it would have an access to too much power.
yeah,
And in the end, he knows he would be corrupted.
yeah, yeah,
And when Gladriel was offered the ring, she knows, she recognizes, oh no, this is bad. this thing could do terrible things through me. And no, I'm going to refuse it because I recognize what will happen to me.
Yeah.
And so they let the poor, helpless, powerless hobbit carry this ring
Yeah.
because it's going to corrupt him.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he's almost uncorruptible, but in the end, it does corrupt him, just like
Yeah.
it begins to corrupt him, just like it did Smeagol.
Yeah.
But Smeagol doesn't have power to shape the world. I mean, it has power to carry the One Ring. And that's what the One Ring hopes is it's eventually going to carry it back to its former master.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But if it gets somebody more powerful, then it's going to use them as it will feed off them, and then it will also do horrible things. It wants to rule,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it falls
Mm-hmm.
into the hand of a king,
Yeah.
then it can do horrible things.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So also with that, so when you're saying that, so back on to Tom Riddle's diary and everything. Okay. So where, um, so where of course, so Ginny, she got the diary and everything like that, and she was just writing in it, and well, like it would write back and everything. So in that, she basically poured her whole soul and, well, I guess like her more like emotional side of things, and just like all of her worries and just like everything like that. I guess a regular teenage girl would, I guess, write about in a journal. I wouldn't know, but yeah. But anyway, um,
Well, anyone that's a young student
yeah,
that would get caught in that trap.
yeah, yeah, for sure, yeah, for sure. But anyway, or well, yeah, so yeah. So anyway, yeah. So essentially, the Horcrux basically kind of took all that and kind of fed off of that and everything, like, and then I guess essentially, and then so after that Horcrux got enough of it, um, I guess like got enough like feeding power or whatever. I don't really know what to call that, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, so once it had enough of that, like then it was able to. So then, well, I guess it was more powerful enough. So then it could basically just take over and kind of possess Ginny, in a way, and of course, like with that, like it did possess Ginny, so because she opened the Chamber of Secrets, and she also like killed chickens, and she did all the things like that the Horcrux essentially told her to do, like is because I feel like the Horcrux ultimately perhaps maybe had I guess like had its purpose, like was to essentially just help open the Chamber of Secrets, which is why the Horcrux was then controlling Ginny, and then telling Ginny, hey, hey, you should do this, and do this horrible thing, and then do this thing, so that way the basilisk can go ahead and just be, you know, released into the school and everything, and yeah, so
Yeah, and in the end, she was going to be the final sacrifice so
mhm,
that Tom Riddle could come back.
yeah, yeah, so yeah, uh,
Now let's look again. Let's go back to the One Ring because we're trying to determine if it's actually a Horcrux
yeah,
or what it is. Um,
yeah, exactly.
do any of Tom Riddle's Horcruxes have the power to rule over another Horcrux?
Well, that is a very interesting question. So for that, honestly, I don't really know. I should really research that more and like look into that more. But or though like just off the top of my head, um, I would maybe probably say, well, so okay, so so like by looking at like all the other Horcruxes and everything. So, well, I guess the main two examples of, I guess, ruling over other people and I guess ultimately taking over them, I guess in a way, like would of course be Tom Riddle's diary, which we just discussed, but also the locket, right? Yeah, yeah, because like yes, like when the trio and the Deathly Hollows, when they were like wearing it and everything, they felt horrible and everything like that, and well, or well, okay, so like they kind of were like really in a dark place and everything like that, like I guess emotionally, like where like they wanted to like hurt each other and like do do bad things to each other, which of course ultimately the Horcrux feeds on that. Which of course like in a way it did that, but of course back to your question is that like if the Horcrux could potentially overpower another piece of Voldemort's soul or just another Horcrux altogether. So essentially, yeah. Well, essentially, the locket could just make you feel worse and bad and just mad and angry and everything else like that. Yeah, but of course, like you had to open that Horcrux in order to kind of like release the soul, or I guess like kind of have it manifest it like better, I guess, and have it like fully kind of haunt you and corrupt you that way. Like which of course, I guess I guess by that means, with Tom Riddle's diary, right? Like you could go ahead and well, the way of unlocking it, I guess, would be, I guess, just writing a bunch of stuff and kind of pouring your emotional self and everything into that. I guess that's one way you could look at unlocking the Horcrux, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Now, see, because looking at the One Ring,
yeah,
it was master over these other rings that were in effect Horcruxes. I mean,
yeah, more or less, yeah,
but they eventually drained the life out of their subjects to the point where they became wraiths.
yeah,
I mean, you look at the nine,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
look
the
at the
men, yeah,
others, they didn't actually become
yeah,
wraiths but it drove them mad. I mean, you look at the dwarven kings,
mm-hmm,
it drove all of them mad for treasure because that's what they wanted.
yeah,
And the elves, of course, they weren't there. They forged the rings before,
yeah,
um, and so he didn't actually touch those rings.
yeah,
But the One Ring was forged to rule over them.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, that's true. But also, yeah, but so if you look at, like all the rings that were gifted to men, right? Right, or well, yeah, so I feel like the One Ring kind of had like a really easy time, kind of what is it? Kind of ruling over them is because if you think about it, like men in the Lord of the Rings universe, men are easily corrupted by power and different things like that. So basically, the ring would just be like, well, this is like super easy. So basically, like if I got these guys under my command, like then the rest would be pretty simple, I guess. But not. But I don't know. That was just my thoughts on that. But
Yeah, I think what happened is when Sauron had the One Ring in his possession, the elves hid their rings.
yeah,
The dwarves did not, but then they weren't other than seeking for treasure, they were not able to be corrupted by the ring.
yeah,
But seeking for treasure was bad enough in their
yeah,
case. Um, but ruling over them, the One Ring did. It ruled over all the other
mm-hmm,
quote Horcruxes. I
yeah,
mean, the rings gave the other rings of power gave their owners extended life
yeah,
to the point where I mean, eventually they did fall into become wraiths because the rings also fed off them eventually. Um, the One Ring, however, was a ring of power,
yeah.
and because it was the ruling ring, um, what happened when it was destroyed?
Well, well, why don't you maybe tell me?
Well, when it was destroyed, all the other rings, even the elven rings, didn't work anymore
Yeah.
because it was the ruling ring. It wasn't like, well, now we're free, we can do whatever we want. No, it was the ruling ring, and when it was destroyed, the other rings no longer worked.
Yeah.
It was actually because it was the ruling ring, it had some form of flowing power that kept the other ones functional. It was actually the ruling power of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
It had been in existence long enough that it became the ruling power. It was the One Ring. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was no longer Sauron that was ruling, it was the One Ring that was ruling all of Middle Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. That.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, okay. So with that, that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, but of course, like so one of the differences between the like the One Ring and Voldemort's seven Horcruxes is of course um, so if you destroy one of the Horcruxes, the other Horcruxes like they don't stop working like is because like they were still individually made with dark magic and everything like that. So I guess with that, that would kind of make like so I guess there's like so there's that difference between like the One Ring and also the like what a Horcrux is in the Harry Potter universe. But yeah.
yeah, well, I think the fact that it was a ruling ring, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it did have a slight piece of Sauron's soul in it,
Yeah.
but the others were Horcruxes. So it was like a Horcrux that ruled over other Horcruxes, if you want to think of them as a Horcrux.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Essentially. Yeah.
perhaps it was a Horcrux, but it was different than the Horcruxes in Harry Potter universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there is no evidence that a Horcrux could actually in Harry Potter rule over another Horcrux.
Yeah.
They could dominate individuals, which is what a Horcrux does.
Yeah.
It does dominate someone,
Yeah.
but it doesn't rule over another Horcrux. But that's what the
Yeah.
One Ring was designed to do:
Yeah.
rule
Yeah.
over everybody, to dominate, to subject, to
Yeah.
rule, to master.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and so when it was destroyed, all the other Horcruxes that went with it, all the other rings, quit working.
Yeah.
I mean, we see that, and the interesting thing about the Horcruxes in Harry Potter universe is they weren't just objects like the rings. Some of them were living things,
Yeah.
like Harry Potter himself
Mm-hmm.
and Nagini. There were
Yeah.
two living objects that were actually Horcruxes.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So well, I was just thinking about that as well. Is that well, okay. So well, I mean, like with Nagini, so Nagini kind of did Voldemort's bidding and everything like that is because at that time she is a full blown snake, and also that the Horcrux that she got turned into a Horcrux basically um, kind of I guess like had a really deep connection like to Voldemort, which is her master in a way. So yes, like for that, like I mean, so there's always that, but of course, you know, also in the fifth book and the fifth movie, yes, well, like Voldemort found out that there was a connection between between Harry and him, like and himself and everything, like which allowed them to kind of like um so which ultimately like allowed Harry to kind of like see visions of what Voldemort wanted and what yeah, so that yeah, and also to kind of like feel what he was feeling like during that moment, which of course a lot of the times was like rage and fear and everything like that. So but yeah, but ultimately though, but ultimately, so back to the original question, is that like is the One Ring a Horcrux? I should say so. So okay, so like when you get deep in detail, like like how you were explaining it to be as kind of ruling over the other rings and everything else like that. I mean, like I feel like probably like at that point, it necessarily wasn't necessarily like a Horcrux at that point, but of course, I feel like probably like at the roots of like what it was supposed to be created for and everything like that. I'm going to probably say that it was a Horcrux. So yes, it is a Horcrux at like the base root of what that magic is, I guess you could say. But anyway, so what are your thoughts on that?
I'd say that, yeah, it was not intended to be. It
Yeah,
was just intended to be a magical item. But as he poured more and more of his will to dominate and things, he actually poured himself into the item, and it became a part. It became a Horcrux.
yeah,
But more so, it actually became something. What he poured, the parts of his soul that he poured into it, it actually became an entity that took over all of Middle Earth,
yeah,
including. And once he was separated from it, I mean that's the thing. In Harry Potter universe, a Horcrux, if you're separated from your Horcrux, you actually want to hide it
yeah,
and take, someplace. But when Sauron was separated from his Horcrux, he had put so much of himself into it, he ceased to exist.
yeah,
In a sense, he was the one that became a wraith, and you know, the Horcrux retained its physical form.
yeah, yeah,
So that's how much energy he actually poured into the thing. He poured way too much of himself into it.
yeah. Oops.
Yeah, so he was the one that went. So that's how much the object had of himself. He poured more than whatever percentage of his soul into the thing,
Hmm.
trying to make sure it could dominate and you know rule, and then whatever was left of himself was not able to take physical form anymore. It was just this wispy spiritual thing, like looked like a necromancer, and but it was a wispy body, darkened wraith like thing.
Yeah,
And then most he could do using all his magic that he'd regained was this all-seeing eye,
yeah,
which wasn't even I mean, just a terrible eye with flame. That's all he could do. But he was a powerful, that was powerful magic.
yeah,
But it wasn't his real body. It wasn't a body.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah. So with that, you're basically saying like that, like it was a Horcrux, but it never actually meant to become a quote unquote Horcrux.
Yeah, because when he was separated from it, I mean, he couldn't exist
Yeah,
as he wanted to.
yeah,
I
that
mean, he
makes sense.
wanted to
Yeah,
be he wanted to be able to go out and lead his troops into fight. He couldn't do that anymore. Once he was separated from it,
yeah,
he didn't have the shape and form to do so. He was, who's going to listen to this little wispy thing? Well,
yeah,
they did because, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, anyway, so yeah, so anyway, so yeah, so with that, so yeah, so with that, okay, so are you able to, or I guess I should say, so are you okay with maybe like ending it, like I guess like ending the video and everything like that? Like, do you think it's time or thereabout?
yeah, I would say, we can
Yeah.
say that, yeah, it was an unintentional Horcrux,
Okay. Yeah.
but it has more power than what anything in the Harry Potter universe does.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Yeah. Well. Well. Then. Anyway. So.
And looking
Yeah.
at the writing that as it evolved and Tolkien was writing it,
Yeah.
through his writings, you can see, looking back in the historical writings of Tolkien, as Bilbo was originally called Bingo and things like that,
Yeah.
and as writing it and writing the ring race, you can see that it eventually intended to be a character in the story and not just an item.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that
Yeah.
was
Which
the
is pretty
intent all
cool.
along.
Yeah.
And you can see that if you read Harry Potter, the the Horcruxes, with the exception of Riddle's diary, are just kind of items.
Yeah, that's true. Oh well, yeah. I mean, so I would agree with that is because you know those items are basically just like little vessels to essentially just like hold souls. So that way, of course, if you die or something like that, you will still be anchored to the world. You won't necessarily move on or anything like that. You'll just kind of be like a wisp of like a little wisp of vapor thing or well whatever like basically you'll be barely alive but you won't be in your body will I guess kind of disappear like similar to how Voldemort's did but yeah so yeah well
Okay, I think
yeah
I don't have a timer up here, so you probably do. We
uh
probably beat this thing to death and then some.
Yeah, 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 definitely did. Well, okay. Well, anyway, so yes, so with that discussion there, anyway, so yeah, so that will basically concludes today's video. So yes, yeah. So of course, if you have liked this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, and also comment down below, and then also don't forget to like the video as well. And I guess with that, I will see you all in another video. So, all right, bye for now, guys.